there is a strong likelihood that the protest will continue tonight once it gets dark. Now, I read the LA Times, or at least the front page, every morning, and not too surprisingly, it was a scathing article about Donald Trump's alleged overreach, about how he mobilized the National Guard over the objections of the governor and of the mayor of Los Angeles, how this is unprecedented power unleashed by the president, yada blah, etc. Headline, a political lesson from unleashed president for LA. Before I get into some of the ridiculous things said in this article, let's just set the table here. We're talking about a city where a lot of people have left, a lot of businesses have left, in part because they can't get insurance. We had a riot in 1992, we had fires. And so a lot of insurance carriers have left the state, left the city, and those who remain charge a substantial amount of money for the premiums, adding to the cost of living and the cost of doing business in California and in Los Angeles. Because of the aftermath of the George Floyd/BLM riots, so many police departments all over the country, New York, Chicago, LA, are down substantially in terms of manpower. The LAPD has not been this small in terms of sworn officers in almost 20 years because so many officers retired or quit or transferred to other departments, and it is very difficult to get new recruits after all if the police are deemed to be systemically racist. This is a place where we've reduced the chances of a bad guy being caught, being convicted, and being incarcerated through bonehead so-called justice reform measures like Proposition 47 and Proposition 57. And California, of course, is a state where we have cashless bail. So the likelihood is that when you do get arrested, you're not going to spend any time in jail. And of course, California is a sanctuary state, and LA is a sanctuary city, meaning the state authorities and city authorities do not cooperate with ICE in terms of informing ICE of people who are being detained, who are illegal aliens, so they can be deported. So we have a recipe for protest and for violent protest. Now, of course, the media are saying that these violent acts were isolated instances and that protests were mostly peaceful. Well, most protests are mostly peaceful. Question is how much damage, how many cars were set on fire, how many businesses were vandalized, what about the federal building that was vandalized? All of these things happen. Even the LAPD chief said that his officers were, and I'm using his word, overwhelmed. Major freeway, the 101, was shut down both ways as protesters took to the streets and blocked traffic each way. The LA Times said, quote, it was the latest expression of a president unleashed from conventional parameters on his power. What does that even mean? You know what was unconventional? 10 to 12 million illegal aliens coming into this country in the last 4 years under the previous president. LA Times not concerned about that. LA Times not concerned about the large number of these people on terror watch lists. LA Times not concerned about the large number of these people convicted of very serious crimes, including but not limited to homicide in their host countries who've gone on to commit crime here. LA Times not at all concerned about the purpose for these so-called workplace sweeps that ICE was involved in over the past weekend. Let's talk a little bit about some of the people that were targeted, shall we, since nobody else seems to care. This is an article from Fox News. ICE arrests worst of the worst illegal aliens in Los Angeles while protesters advocate for criminals. Reportedly, something like 100 people were arrested in these workplace ICE sweeps in about 4 or 5 different locations over the weekend. ICE arrested a man named Chong Chang Phan, an illegal alien from Vietnam, with a criminal history that includes a conviction of second-degree murder. He was convicted of shooting up a high school graduation party after a dispute, killing an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old. 7 others were injured in that incident. He is one of the ones that ICE arrested. You think maybe the community's better off not having this guy in the streets? ICE arrested Rolando Veneracion Enriquez, 55-year-old illegal alien from the Philippines, convicted of burglary, sexual penetration with a foreign object, and assault with intent to commit rape. Lionel Sanchez Laguna, 55-year-old Mexican national, arrested on Friday. His criminal history included discharging a firearm at an inhabited dwelling and vehicle, battery on spouse or cohabitant, willful cruelty to child, driving under the influence, assault with a semi-automatic firearm, and personal use of a firearm. 44-year-old Armando Ordez of Mexico. His history includes sexual battery, receiving known stolen property, and petty theft. Francisco Sanchez Arguello, 38 years old, of Mexico. Been arrested for grand theft, larceny, and possession of a prohibited weapon. 42-year-old Jose Gregorio Miranda Ortiz, Ecuadorian national, been arrested and convicted of conspiracy to possess 5 kilograms or more of cocaine with distribution intent while on a vessel in Tampa, Florida. Victor Mendoza Aguilar, 32, of Mexico, convicted of possession of unlawful paraphernalia, possession of controlled substances, assault with a deadly weapon, and obstruction of a police officer. Delfino Aguilar Martinez, 51, of Mexico, had been charged and convicted of assault with a deadly weapon with great bodily injury. 43-year-old Jose Cristobal Hernandez Beltran, illegal alien from Peru, previously convicted of robbery. Honduran national Jordan Mauricio Mesa Esquivel, convicted of distributing narcotics and domestic violence. 26-year-old Jesus Alan Hernandez Morales, Mexican national, arrested and previously convicted of conspiring to transport an illegal alien into the country. These are some of the people who were arrested over the weekend in these ICE workplace raids. The LA Times implied that the president did not have the authority to authorize hundreds of National Guardsmen and women. This is 10 U.S. Code Section 252, quote, "Whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages, or rebellion against the authority of the United States make it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States in any state by the ordinary course of judicial proceedings, he may call into federal service such of the militia of any state and use such of the armed forces as he considers necessary to enforce those laws or to suppress the rebellion," end of quote. I might add this authority was also used in 1992 during the Los Angeles riots.